Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Lockie, and well, today I am here with the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix review. If you haven't seen this before, basically I talk about everything from practice to the race, so all practices, qualifying race. And to be perfectly honest with you, it was a boring practice and qualifying, so there's not much, so we can get through that quickly. Um, I do want to mention, if I do sound tired, I am. It's about 2 in the morning and I'm getting this video edited, or recorded, edited and rendered and uploaded for you guys basically today, which I don't typically do, but after the race that happened, I mean, how can I not? So first of all, you go into uh, practice, and Rosberg had a problem, uh, which is, not, it wasn't a major one. I think it was just a sensor issue. It ended up being, they said, so fair enough to that. And noticed that because I was actually with my dad for practice and qualifying, so we talked a lot about this, and we did notice that every time they turn that car up, it's unreliable, and that's what I said before. In my prediction video, where they turn that car up and it's just, it always breaks. There's always a problem. There's always something wrong with it. So, that's something to keep an eye on in the future. Now I understand that they're working and they have the money and resources to fix that problem, but it's still a problem. So then that's about it for practice. There wasn't much else. I think Perez's car actually caught fire, and that was about it, which we'll get to that in a minute. So then you go into qualifying. It was a pretty good qualifying. I mean, Massa got knocked out in Q1. And then, every session Ricciardo was getting beaten by Verstappen. And then in the end, it was just a phenomenal lap from Ricciardo. He ended up getting third. Hamilton got first. Rosberg got second. Verstappen got fourth. Then I believe it was Vettel and Kimi. So I mean, that was about it. There's not really much to really go on about it. It was their boring qualifying. And then we hit the race. Now, as I said, I did want to go through that semi-quickly because, well, how else do I say, this race was one of the best in a very, very long time. And if you did miss it, well, basically, third corner and both Mercedes are out because it looked to be Hamilton took out Rosberg. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that right now. I will talk about that more to the end, because I'm going to go on for that for a little bit. But yes, Rosberg took that out. So then it was, okay, the Ferraris and the Red Bulls stand a good chance at winning. But everyone was like, probably going to be Ferraris. Well, in the end, it was a great race. It was Ricciardo was leading to Verstappen, to Vettel and Kimi, and then basically, Ricciardo pit-wise tried to cover Vettel, who Vettel pit-wise tried to cover Ricciardo. So it was kind of a bit of an iffy, and same for Verstappen and Raikkonen. They tried to cover each other. At the end of the day, they got the better strategy. Wasn't thought to be the better strategy. It was actually thought to be the worst strategy. So at the end of the day, yeah, they ended up getting a better strategy. And basically, they battled out for the rest of the race, which I'll get into more again a little bit later. Hulkenberg, his car sets on fire, which they believe to be the same problem that Perez had in practice. So there's obviously a common problem there, whether it was just a common problem with both their engines and installing it, or whether it is a common problem with that engine. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. then Alonso's car. Now they said it's the power stopped, but if you actually look at it, I wouldn't say the power stopped. I say it went into like a safety mode because you could still transfer through the gears, and it was staying at about the same revs and wouldn't go above it. So it kind of seemed like it went into a safety setting to where it doesn't damage the engine because they were having sensor problems. And the car didn't sound sick. It just went, he came out of a corner and just went and didn't want to change tone. So I'm sure it wasn't something too bad and he won't lose an engine, but I could be horribly wrong in that department. Then I believe it was Grosjean next who retired because he had some, I think it was brake problems, which was linked to the fly-by-wire problem they had in practice. So that's unfortunate for them, but Gutierrez didn't have too bad of a race. And that was, to be honest with you, kind of it for the race. So there, I'll talk about, the front four. So Ricciardo was leading the race, and he pitted at, I believe, lap 11 to cover off the early pit stop from Ferrari, and I believe Vettel pitted at lap 15, 16, so he went a little bit longer, and I believe they both went to medium tyres and gave that a go, and then they went, they went on them for a while, and Vettel was catching. I believe Verstappen pitted a lap later as well, so he pitted on lap 12. Kimi, I can't remember when Kimi pitted. Kimi did the early pit, so he pitted, I think, at lap 12 as well. So it was, very interesting strategies, and you're going through the race, you really couldn't pick who was going to win it. You really could not. And then because of Red Bull and their good tyre life, Verstappen swapped over to the two-stop strategy, whereas Ricciardo didn't, and he pitted later on. He pitted, I can't remember what lap he pitted on, but he went for the softs, and Vettel came in to cover him, which he ultimately probably didn't need to. He could have gone for a two-stopper. And then, but Verstappen and Kimi Räikkönen stayed out there. And at the end of the day, they pitted at lap 37 and 38. Verstappen pitted first. And they didn't pit again, whereas both Vettel and Ricciardo did. And Vettel pitted really early. Ricciardo pitted at lap 44 and Vettel pitted at lap 37 or 38. So he pitted fairly early. And yeah, I mean, it's a hard track to pass on, and it showed. Ricciardo couldn't get past Vettel and then had a puncture in, I think, the second to last lap. So that basically took him out. Still finished fourth. He didn't actually get overtaken by anyone else, which was unbelievable. And yeah, Verstappen and Kimi were battling at the front. Kimi just could not get out of the last corner because he didn't have the traction, because he doesn't have the chassis grip that Red Bull does. So he could get close, but he could never really attack. And that was kind of that. That was your race. And good on Verstappen, He's now officially the youngest F1 driver to ever win it at 18. And if you guys don't know, he's actually a month older than me. So he's basically, my age, which is crazy for me to watch and just go, wow, you won your first race. And he is definitely a star of the future. And I have said in the past that I think Carlos Sainz better, which I still stand by that. But I can't say that, Verstappen didn't earn it or, didn't work for his win. He is a phenomenal driver, and because he's 18, he's got at least 20 years in the sport, or at least 15 years in the sport. He'll be a world champion. So that was that, and then to get back to what I said before, where I was going to talk about the Rosberg and Hamilton collision. Now, this is an interesting collision. So there's a lot of everyone saying it's Hamilton's fault, everyone saying it's Rosberg's fault, and then there's a few neutral people like me who say it was a race incident, which it ultimately got deemed as by the stewards. Um, and the reason why I say this is a race incident is because you you know, going into turn one, okay, fair enough, Rosberg got, first. And turn two, still in first, but he was in a different mode. And he was actually looking at his wheel when Hamilton committed to his move. He wasn't there, he wasn't next to him yet, but then he was next to him when he was on the track, and Rosberg kept coming along very aggressively. Now, yes, the move was very aggressive from Hamilton, but in saying that, Hamilton did end up having the right of way. Um, as for one, is that a good thing to do on your first lap? God no, it's not a first lap thing to do. Because, as they keep saying, you don't win races on your first lap. And then it was probably both their fault. They both should have done things better. Hamilton shouldn't have been as aggressive, but Nico shouldn't have been as defensive, as aggressive and defensive. So it was a bit of both. But I think at the end of the day, it was if you really did, and I don't normally agree with Martin Brundle on this, but if you really did have to say something, I put 60% of the blame in Rosberg and 40% of the blame in Hamilton. Hamilton did, help cause the accident, but it's just one of those things. Now, this race, I do have to say, was, as I said, one of the best races I've seen in a long time, and that's why I'm recording this video. And yet again, I do apologise if there's long breaks, or if I sound really tired. I am. It's, 2 in the morning, so I am very tired, and I was busy doing stuff yesterday and travelling and everything. So I am pretty damn tired. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to blame anyone, you can blame Nico. But I wouldn't really blame him. And as I said, moving on forward, I feel contracts at Mercedes is going to be very interesting. There's talks of Hamilton not wanting to be there and getting out of his contract early at the end of next year. And there's also talks that Rosberg has signed for another year. And I think I've been saying this for a while. I really do think that Mercedes shouldn't keep these two drivers in their team. Get rid of one of them. Now the team needs to work together and unify. And look at Red Bull. Red Bull had Vettel there, and they weren't really progressing their car. And then they got rid of Vettel and they put Kvyat in it, and then they really progressed with their car. And they look at them now. They had Kvyat, and now they got Verstappen. They got two drivers working together to achieve one goal. Whereas what I feel like in no one really expected them to be where they were. So if I did forget a little bit there, my audio just didn't stop but paused. But yeah, they didn't. No one expected them to be where they are, and they are. And at the end of the day, I said at the start of the season that they're the dark horse, and I actually was very correct. I said I had a funny feeling that Red Bull would have a really good weekend here, and they did. So I'm very happy with it. I also did say that Mercedes would have a problem, and they did. So I guess I'm not too bad on my predictions. Going forward into the season, Red Bull definitely going to look good at Monaco. This engine upgrade that they're being said to get that is half a second faster, that could put them, it will put them ahead of Ferrari, but it could put them in a fighting position with Mercedes at certain tracks, and maybe in just general, they might start be able to fight if they really did find this half a second. So I'll be interested to see what's really going to happen there. Do I think that Mercedes will win it this season still? Yeah, they'll still get it. I Do I think it'll be close? Hell yeah! I think with this, with everything, with all these upgrades happening to Red Bull, it's gonna be a threat. And no one saw. My dad and I were saying this whole weekend. If you listen to them after practice, no one was talking about Red Bull. Everyone was talking about Ferrari and challenging Mercedes. And my dad and I are like, are you kidding me? Red Bull. This is a Red Bull track. Red Bull are gonna do well here, you know. And they're clearly hiding. They're clearly trying to play that dark horse where you don't see them. Until the last second. So it's going to be very interesting. As I said, contracts are coming up. That's going to be very interesting and fun. But yeah, it's gonna be a very very interesting contract season because Kimi's been doing well. Kimi's number one in the team at the moment. You know, he's outperforming Vettel. So he could possibly stay another year. I still don't think he should. But I mean, if you're outperforming someone like Vettel, you want to. But at the same time, Ferrari want to snatch up like Carlos Sainz, who was basically the same pace as Verstappen. And if Verstappen is showing this, they want it, or they want a Ricardo, or they want someone. You know, they need someone, another good driver that can help work with it and challenge Vettel more than what Kimi is. So that's my thoughts and opinions. I know this video is short. As I said, I'm tired. I can't really do a longer one. But if you did enjoy, smash that like button. It really helps me out. Subscribe to see more. I do a prediction video. Now will be the Friday before Grand Prix, or Thursday depending on where you live. Friday for Australians. And I have a video sometimes out Monday or Tuesday or the review. Now obviously this one's a Monday one. But yeah, so smash a like, leave a comment if you know your thoughts and opinions. I love reading the comments and hearing other people's opinions. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Just made a pass for the lead.
Mercedes came out on top today, with Nico Rosberg bringing home the car in first place to add another 25 points to his championship total.